Captain Veltar's antenna twitched as the alarm screamed through the space station. His 6 legs carried him quickly across the command center, while his crew worked at their stations. Through the large window, he could see the beautiful blue and green planet of Zephyr Prime spinning slowly below them. It was a peaceful sight that would not last much longer. "Captain, 20 enemy ships just jumped into our system," reported his communications officer. Her voice shook with fear. "They are Korthak vessels. War class." Veltar felt his blood turn cold. The Korthak Empire was known across the galaxy for their cruelty. They did not just kill their enemies. They made them suffer first. Their weapons were designed to cause pain before death. No one had ever survived a Korthak attack. "Are they responding to our peace signals?" Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer. "No, sir. They are firing on civilian ships. 3 colony transports are already destroyed." Veltar closed his large compound eyes. His people were traders and farmers, not warriors. They had no military ships, no weapons that could stop the Korthak fleet. The space station had some defensive shields, but they would not last long against 20 warships. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them we are under attack and need immediate help." His communications officer worked quickly, then looked up with despair in her eyes. "Sir, the nearest council fleet is 3 weeks away. We will not survive 3 hours against the Korthaks." Veltar stared at the enemy ships growing larger on his screen. Soon, they would be in range of the station. Then the real horror would begin. He had heard stories of what the Korthaks did to captured stations. They would torture every person aboard before finally allowing them to die. "Captain," his second officer said quietly, "there is another option." Veltar turned to him. "What do you mean?" "The human emergency beacon. We installed it last year as part of the new trade agreement. If we activate it, any human ships in the area will respond immediately." "Why? Ever why? Why? Ever why?" The command center went silent. Every member of Veltar's crew stared at their captain. The idea of calling for human help was almost as terrifying as facing the Korthaks. Humans were Deathworlders. They came from a planet so dangerous that it had tried to kill them for millions of years. The stories about them were frightening. They were said to be violent beyond measure. When they fought wars, they did not stop until their enemies were completely destroyed. They had something they called total war, where they would burn entire planets to ash. Other species whispered that humans did not understand mercy. They were predators who enjoyed killing. Some said they were so violent that they fought wars against their own species for entertainment. The worst stories claimed that humans would eat their enemies after defeating them. "Sir," his communications officer said softly, "the Korthaks are targeting the civilian evacuation ships. Hundreds of families are trying to escape." Veltar watched the screen as Korthak fighters chased down helpless transport ships. He saw the bright flashes as the ships exploded. Each flash meant dozens of his people were dead. In the corner of the command center, he noticed Dr. Yuki Nakamura. She was the human diplomat assigned to their station. She was small compared to the Zephyrians. But something about her made everyone nervous. Like all humans, she had forward-facing eyes like a predator. Her teeth were designed for tearing meat. Even when she smiled, which she did often, it looked dangerous to the plant-eating Zephyrians. Dr. Nakamura was listening to their conversation. Her face was calm, but Veltar thought he saw something cold and hard in her eyes. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "the Korthaks are in firing range of the station. They are charging their pain weapons." Veltar felt panic rise in his chest. The Korthak pain weapons would not kill them quickly. They would suffer for hours before death came. He looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had families on the planet below. They deserved better than this. He made his choice. "Activate the human emergency beacon," he ordered. His crew stared at him in shock. "Sir? Are you certain?" his second officer asked. The humans might be worse than the Korthax. See? The Korthax will definitely torture us to death, Veltar replied. The humans might just kill us quickly. I will take that chance. His communications officer reached for the human beacon controls with a shaking hand. Ancestors, forgive us, she whispered. It was an old Zephyrian prayer, said before, doing something very dangerous. Other crew members began to pray as well. Please, do not let the humans come, some whispered. Let the council fleet arrive first. Others prayed. If the humans must come, let them show mercy. The beacon activated with a soft beep. Somewhere in space, human ships would receive the signal. They would know that innocent people were under attack. What they would do about it was anyone's guess. Dr. Nakamura stood up from her corner. She walked over to the communications station and spoke quietly to the officer there. Veltar could not hear what she said, but the officer nodded and began working at her controls. What did you tell her? Veltar asked the human diplomat. Dr. Nakamura looked at him with those predator eyes. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but somehow very dangerous. I told her to send a full tactical report with the beacon signal. Ship numbers, weapon types, civilian locations. My people will want to know exactly what they are dealing with. Your people? Veltar asked. Yes, Dr. Nakamura said. My people do not like it when innocents are threatened. They tend to take it personally. Before Veltar could ask what she meant, his tactical officer shouted a warning. The Korthax are firing! The first wave of pain beams hit the station's shields. Even through the barriers, Veltar could feel the awful sensation of the Korthak weapons. It was like needles made of fire stabbing into his brain. His crew cried out in agony as the shields began to fail. How long until the shields collapse? Veltar asked through gritted teeth. 20 minutes? Maybe less? Came the reply. Veltar looked out at the Korthak ships. They were taking their time, enjoying the fear they were causing. They knew the station could not fight back. In his heart, Captain Veltar prayed one more time. Ancestors, we have called the humans. If they come, please let them be the lesser evil. Please let them kill us quickly instead of slowly. Behind him, Dr. Nakamura was speaking quietly into a personal communicator. Veltar caught a few words. Confirmed hostile action against civilians. Authorization requested for full response. Understood. Admiral. When she finished her call, Dr. Nakamura looked at Veltar. For just a moment, he thought he saw something like sympathy in her predator eyes. Captain, she said softly, you might want to tell your people to hold on just a little longer. The space around Zephyr Prime suddenly filled with bright flashes. Captain Veltar thought the Korthax were firing more weapons, but then he realized the flashes were too big and too organized. Something else was happening. Captain, his sensor officer shouted, multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. 12. No. 20. Sir, I count over 50 ships incoming. Veltar rushed to the sensor display. What he saw made his legs weak. The largest ships on the screen were massive beyond anything he had ever seen. They dwarfed even the Korthak warships. Smaller vessels surrounded them like a cloud of angry insects. Identification signals coming through, his communications officer reported. Her voice was full of shock. They are all human vessels, sir. United Earth Navy. 50 ships? Veltar whispered. For one distress call? Dr. Nakamura walked up beside him. Admiral Chen does not like to take chances when civilians are involved, she said calmly. This is Third Fleet. They were doing training exercises 2 systems away. Veltar stared at her. Third Fleet? How many fleets do humans have? 12 active fleets, Dr. Nakamura replied, plus reserves. Before Veltar could process this information, his tactical officer called out. The human ships are moving into attack formation. They are not even trying to talk to the Korthax. On the main screen, they could see the human fleet spreading out like the fingers of a hand. The large ships moved with surprising speed for their size. The smaller ships darted between them in patterns that looked almost like a dance. Warlord Thexmore of the Korthak Empire was also watching the human arrival. From his command ship, he had conquered 18 different species. None had ever called for help from Deathworlders before. "How many ships?" he asked his weapons officer. 53 confirmed. 12 of their largest class. The rest appear to be destroyers and fighters. Thexmore laughed. 50 ships against 20? The humans must think we are weak. Show them what Korthak warriors can do. Fire all weapons. The Korthak fleet opened fire with everything they had. Pain beams, plasma cannons, and kinetic weapons all streaked toward the human formation. It should have been enough firepower to destroy half the human fleet. The human response was immediate and precise. Their shields absorbed the attacks, while their own weapons began to fire. But these were not the wild, angry attacks that Thexmore expected from savage Deathworlders. Every human ship fired at exactly the right moment, at exactly the right target. Captain Jae-sung Park commanded the human destroyer Incheon's Pride. He watched his tactical display as the Korthak weapons harmlessly struck his shields. "All weapons charged and ready, Captain," his weapons officer reported. "Target the Korthak command ship." "Fire when ready," Park ordered. The Incheon's Pride fired a single plasma torpedo. It flew through space and struck the Korthak command ship's engines. The explosion was precise and controlled. The ship was disabled, not destroyed. Around the battlefield, the same scene played out again and again. Human ships fired once, maybe twice, and another Korthak vessel was disabled or destroyed. There was no wasted motion, no wild firing, no signs of the savage bloodlust that the galaxy expected from Deathworlders. "Sir," Park's communications officer said, "Admiral Chen is requesting damage reports from all ships." "Tell the Admiral we have taken no damage," Park replied. "Request permission to begin rescue operations for Korthak survivors." Back on the space station, Captain Veltar watched in amazement as the battle unfolded. The Korthak fleet, which had seemed so powerful just minutes before, was being systematically destroyed. But the humans were not acting like the savage monsters from the stories. They are coordinating perfectly, his tactical officer observed. Every ship knows exactly where every other ship is. It is like they are all controlled by one mind. "Look at their firing patterns," added the weapons officer. "They are not trying to cause maximum damage. They are aiming to disable engines and weapons first." Veltar realized something that shocked him. They are trying to minimize casualties, even enemy casualties. End quote. Dr. Nakamura nodded. Admiral Chen follows human military doctrine. End the threat as quickly as possible with minimum loss of life. But they are Deathworlders, Veltar said, confused. "The stories say they love violence and killing. The stories are wrong," Dr. Nakamura replied. "Humans fight when they must, but we do not enjoy it. We want conflicts to end quickly, so everyone can go home." On his command ship, Warlord Thexmore watched his fleet falling apart around him. In 15 minutes of battle, he had lost 12 ships. The humans had lost nothing. Not one human ship had even taken serious damage. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They are only 50 ships." "Sir," his tactical officer reported with fear in his voice. "They are not fighting like individual ships. They are fighting like a single organism. When one ship moves, all the others adjust their positions. When one ship fires, the others provide covering fire. I have never seen coordination like this." Thexmore realized he was facing something beyond his understanding. His empire had conquered dozens of species by being more brutal, more willing to kill and destroy than anyone else. But these humans were not more brutal. They were more efficient. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "The humans are sending a message." "Put it through," Thexmore ordered. A human face appeared on his screen. It was a woman with dark skin and calm eyes. She wore the uniform of an admiral. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy Third Fleet. Korthak vessels. You are in violation of Galactic Council Resolution 847 regarding attacks on civilian populations. Cease all hostile actions immediately and prepare to be boarded." Thexmore snarled at the screen. "I am Warlord Thexmore of the Korthak Empire. I do not surrender to anyone, especially not to Deathworlder scum." Admiral Chen's expression did not change. "Very well. All human vessels, continue with Engagement Protocol 7. Disable remaining Korthak ships for prisoner recovery." The transmission ended. Around Thexmore's command ship, the last few Korthak vessels were quickly overwhelmed. Their weapons were destroyed, their engines disabled, their shields collapsed. Captain Veltar watched the final moments of the battle. The human fleet surrounded the surviving Korthak ships but did not destroy them. Instead, human boarding craft began to approach the disabled vessels. "They are taking prisoners," he observed with wonder. "They could easily kill them all. But they are taking prisoners. Humans have rules about how wars should be fought," Dr. Nakamura explained. "Even enemies have rights once they surrender or are defeated." Veltar looked at the human diplomat with new understanding. "You are not monsters at all, are you?" Dr. Nakamura smiled, and for the first time, Veltar did not find her teeth frightening. "No, Captain. We are not monsters. We are protectors." 2 hours after the last Korthak ship surrendered, Captain Veltar received a message that confused him greatly. The humans wanted to come aboard his station. Not to take control of it, but to help repair the damage. "They want to help us?" Veltar asked Dr. Nakamura. "But they have won the battle. Why do they care about our problems now?" "Because that is what humans do," she replied. "We finish what we start. The Korthaks attacked innocent people. Until those people are safe and their homes are repaired, the job is not done." Admiral Sarah Chen arrived on the station with a team of engineers and medical officers. She was smaller than Veltar had expected for someone who commanded 50 warships. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "Captain Veltar," she said in the station's main docking bay, "I apologize that we could not arrive sooner. I understand you took casualties." Veltar was surprised by her words. "You apologize, Admiral? You saved us all. If you had not come, we would all be dead by now." 37 civilians died before we could stop the attack," Admiral Chen replied. "That is 37 too many. My engineers are ready to repair your shields and life support systems. My medical team can treat anyone who was injured by the Korthak pain weapons." Within minutes, human teams were working throughout the station. Veltar followed one group and was amazed by what he saw. The human engineers did not just fix what was broken. They improved it. Their tools were designed to work in conditions that would kill most species. When a Zephyrian engineer mentioned that a power coupling had been damaged in an area with dangerous radiation, the humans simply put on protective suits and went to fix it. "Is radiation not dangerous to your people?" Veltar asked. "Oh, it is very dangerous," replied Chief Engineer Martinez. "But we come from a world where radiation, extreme heat, poisonous gas, and deadly storms are normal. We learned to work in dangerous places a long time ago." In the medical bay, Veltar found even more surprises. Human doctors were treating not only the injured Zephyrians, but also wounded Korthak prisoners. A Korthak officer lay on a medical table, while a human doctor carefully repaired his damaged arm. "Why are you helping him?" Veltar asked the doctor. "He came here to kill us all." Dr. Kim looked up from her work. "Because he is injured, and I am a doctor. On my homeworld, we have an old saying. First, do no harm. It means that once the fighting is over, everyone deserves medical care. The Korthak officer on the table stared at the human doctor with confusion. You are treating me the same as your own people. Why? Because you are no longer my enemy, Dr. Kim replied. You are my patient. There is a difference. Captain Park of the Incheon's Pride was touring the station when he encountered a group of Korthak prisoners. They were being held in what had been a conference room, but it looked more like a medical facility than a prison. Human guards stood nearby, but they were not pointing weapons at the prisoners. One of the Korthak prisoners approached him. It was a young soldier, barely old enough to fight. Human captain, the prisoner said nervously. When will you execute us? Captain Park was surprised by the question. Execute you? We are not going to execute anyone. But we are your enemies. We tried to kill your allies. In the Korthak Empire, defeated enemies are always executed. Captain Park sat down across from the young Korthak. What is your name, soldier? I am Kex-Tar, sir. Well, Kex-Tar, let me explain something about humans. We have rules about how we treat prisoners. You will be fed the same food as our own troops. You will receive medical care if you need it. You will be allowed to communicate with your families. When this war is over, you will be sent home. Kex-Tar stared at him in disbelief. You will send us home? Even though we are your enemies? You were our enemies during the battle. Captain Park corrected. Now you are prisoners of war. That means you have rights under human military law. We will respect those rights. But why? Kex-Tar asked. Your people are said to be savage Deathworlders who show no mercy. Captain Park thought about how to explain this. Kex-Tar, my people survived on a very dangerous world. We learned to be tough and strong. But we also learned something else very important. We learned that strength should be used to protect people, not to hurt them. When we fight to end threats. When the threat is over, the fighting stops. On the planet below, more human ships were landing with supplies and medical teams. Veltar watched from his command center as human transports delivered food, medicine, and building materials to the areas damaged by the Korthak attack. Admiral, he said to Admiral Chen, this is very generous of your people, but we cannot pay for all of this assistance. Admiral Chen looked surprised. Captain, we are not expecting payment. When innocent people are hurt, you help them. That is not something you charge money for. But your government must expect something in return. Trade agreements? Mining rights? Military bases? The only thing Earth expects is that you continue to be peaceful people living good lives, Admiral Chen replied. If you want to trade with us, we would enjoy that. If you want to be our allies, we would be honored. But those are your choices to make. Veltar felt something he had never experienced before when dealing with a military force. He felt safe. These powerful warriors, who could destroy entire fleets, were using their strength to protect and help others. Dr. Nakamura found him later that day, standing in the observation deck looking out at the human fleet. Your thoughts, Captain? She asked. I am trying to understand, Veltar replied. Your people have enough power to conquer the entire galaxy. Why do you not do it? What would be the point? Doctor, Nakamura asked. Conquest means ruling over people who do not want to be ruled. It means constant rebellions, constant fighting, constant fear. Why would anyone want that? Then what do your people want? Dr. Nakamura smiled. We want what everyone wants. Safe homes for our families, good friends to share meals with, peaceful neighbors who we can trade with and learn from, the ability to explore new worlds and discover new things. Humans learned long ago that these things are easier to achieve when everyone is free and happy. Veltar looked out at the human ships again. They were not positioned like conquerors. They were positioned like guardians, watching over the system and protecting it from any new threats. Dr. Nakamura, he said finally. I think I understand now. Your people are not monsters. You are shepherds. Shepherds? On our world, shepherds are people who protect flocks of peaceful animals from dangerous predators. They are strong and brave, but they use their strength only to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Dr. Nakamura nodded. I think that is a very good way to describe it, Captain. Humans are shepherds, and we take that job very seriously. 3 weeks after the battle, life on the space station had returned to normal. Better than normal, actually. The human engineers had improved almost everything while making repairs. The shields were stronger, the life support was more efficient, and the communication systems could reach twice as far as before. Captain Veltar found himself eating lunch with human officers almost every day. At first, it had been frightening to sit near the predator species, but now he looked forward to these meals. The humans told interesting stories and asked thoughtful questions about Zephyrian culture. Captain Park, Veltar said one day as they shared a meal. May I ask you something personal? Of course, Park replied, setting down his fork. The stories we heard about humans said that your people enjoy violence, that you fight wars for entertainment. But I have seen you treat prisoners with kindness and risk your lives to help strangers. Which story is true? Captain Park thought carefully before answering. Both stories have some truth, but neither is complete. Humans do have violent instincts. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years, so we had to become very good at fighting. But we also had to become very good at working together. The humans who survived were not just the strongest fighters. They were the ones who could protect their families and communities. So violence is natural to your people? Violence is a tool that humans can use when necessary, Park explained. But so is cooperation. So is building and creating and healing. The trick is knowing when to use which tool. Veltar found this fascinating. How do you decide when violence is the right tool? When innocent people are being hurt, and no other solution will work quickly enough to save them, Park said without hesitation. Violence should always be the last choice. But sometimes, it is the only choice that will protect the people you care about. In another part of the station, a young Zephyrian named Kava was having her own educational experience. She worked in the station's botanical gardens and had been terrified when the humans first arrived. But curiosity had overcome her fear, and now she spent her free time talking to human crew members. Dr. Rodriguez, she said to the human botanist who was helping to repair her gardens, is it true that your planet has animals that live with humans as friends? Dr. Rodriguez smiled and pulled out a small device that showed pictures. These are called pets. This is my dog, Max. He lives in my home, and my family takes care of him. Kava stared at the image of the furry creature. But he is a predator. Look at those teeth. Why do you not fear him? Because Max would never hurt my family. We trained him when he was young to be gentle and loyal. In return, we give him food, shelter, medical care, and love. Love? Max is not just a predator. He is a friend, a companion, a member of my family. When I come home from work, he is always happy to see me. When I am sad, he stays close to comfort me. When my children play in the yard, he watches over them to keep them safe. Kava was amazed by this idea. So, humans can make friends with dangerous animals? Humans make friends with all kinds of beings, Dr. Rodriguez said. We have pets that are predators like dogs and cats. We have pets that are prey animals, like rabbits and birds. We even have pets that are reptiles and insects. The important thing is not what type of animal they are, but how we treat each other. That evening, Kava was working late in the gardens when she heard sounds of distress from a nearby maintenance area. She went to investigate and found a human engineer trapped under a heavy piece of equipment that had fallen during repairs. Help! The engineer called out. I cannot move my legs. Keva ran to get help, but the nearest human crew members were 3 levels away. By the time they arrived, the trapped engineer could have serious injuries. She made a quick decision and tried to lift the equipment herself. It was too heavy for her alone, but she kept trying. Soon, other station workers arrived, and together, they lifted the metal beam off the engineer. The human had suffered a broken leg, but was otherwise unhurt. As the medical team carried him away on a stretcher, the engineer grabbed Keva's hand. "Thank you," he said. "You saved my life." "Anyone would have done the same," Keva replied. "No," the engineer said. 3 weeks ago, you would have been too afraid to come near me. You helped me because you chose to help me, not because you had to. That makes it special." Later that night, Keva found Captain Veltar in the observation lounge. He was looking out at the human fleet, which still patrolled the system. "Captain," she said, "I have been thinking about the humans." "What about them?" Veltar asked. "When they first arrived, I thought they were monsters who would hurt us. But they are not monsters at all. They are just people who happen to be very good at protecting others." Veltar nodded. "I have learned the same thing." "But what made you realize this?" "I helped save a human engineer today," Keva said. "And I realized something. The humans help us, not because they have to, but because they want to. And today, I helped one of them for the same reason. We are becoming friends. Friends with Deathworlders." Veltar mused. 6 months ago, I would have said that was impossible. 6 months ago, we did not understand what Deathworlder really means, Keva replied. We thought it meant they were violent and cruel. But it really means they are strong enough to survive anything, and wise enough to use that strength to help others. Admiral Chen visited the station that evening to check on the progress of repairs. She found Captain Veltar in his office, working on reports. "Captain," she said, "I wanted to inform you that most of the human fleet will be leaving tomorrow. We are confident that the Korthak threat to this system has been eliminated." Veltar felt a moment of panic. "You are leaving? But what if the Korthaks come back?" "They will not," Admiral Chen said confidently. "Word of their defeat here has spread throughout their empire. 3 of their frontier worlds have already declared independence. The Korthak Empire is collapsing from within. But if any new threats appear, you can always activate the emergency beacon again. Will you respond if we call?" Admiral Chen smiled. "Captain, you are under Earth's protection now. That means if anyone threatens you, they threaten us. And as you have seen, humans take threats to their friends very seriously." Veltar felt relief wash over him. "Admiral, I must admit something to you. When we first activated the human beacon, my crew and I prayed that you would not come. We were more afraid of you than we were of the Korthaks." "And now?" Admiral Chen asked. "Now we pray that if we ever face danger again, you will come quickly," Veltar replied. "You have shown us that strength and kindness can exist in the same people. You have taught us that the most powerful protectors are often the gentlest friends." Admiral Chen stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Captain, there is an old saying on Earth, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Humans learned long ago that if you have the power to help others, you have the responsibility to use it." After she left, Veltar sat in his office thinking about everything that had happened. 3 weeks ago, his people had been terrified. Victims. Now they were protected allies of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. And that force had asked for nothing in return except friendship. He picked up his communication device and began recording a message to send to the Zephyrian homeworld. "This is Captain Veltar of Harmony's Light Station. I am sending this report to correct the mistaken beliefs our people have held about the human species. Humans are not the monsters we thought they were. They are guardians who use their strength to protect the innocent. I recommend that our government consider forming a formal alliance with Earth. Not because we fear them, but because we trust them. 6 months after the battle, Admiral Veltar stood in the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council. He had been promoted after his successful handling of the Korthak crisis. And now, he represented his entire species in galactic affairs. The hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of different worlds. Many of them were afraid. Rumors about human military power had spread throughout the galaxy. Some species wanted to form alliances with Earth. Others wanted to build defenses against them. Today, Veltar would tell them the truth. Honored representatives, he began. 6 months ago, my space station was attacked by the Korthak Empire. We faced certain death. In desperation, we activated a human emergency beacon. Today, I want to tell you what happened when the Deathworlders answered our call. A murmur went through the assembly. Every species in the galaxy had heard stories about the battle, but few knew the details. The human response was immediate and overwhelming. 53 warships arrived within hours. But they did not come as conquerors. They came as protectors. Veltar activated a holographic display that showed the battle. Watch how they fought. Every move was precise. Every attack was calculated to disable, not destroy. They ended a battle that should have taken days in less than 2 hours, with minimum loss of life on both sides. The assembly watched in silence as the human fleet systematically defeated the Korthaks. But the most important part came after the battle. Veltar continued. The humans did not leave. They stayed to repair our damaged infrastructure. They treated wounded prisoners with the same care as their own injured soldiers. They shared their food with civilian refugees. They asked for nothing in return. Ralbin and Afentig Sevent, a representative from the Centauri Republic, stood up. Admiral Veltar, these actions sound admirable, but humans are still Deathworlders. How can we trust beings who evolved to be predators? Veltar had expected this question. Representative Zolvin, you are correct that humans evolved as predators, but they evolved as something else as well. They evolved as pack hunters who protect their families and communities. A human predator instinct is not about killing for pleasure. It is about eliminating threats to those they care about. Another representative spoke up. But what happens when humans decide that we are threats? That is the wrong question. Veltar replied. The right question is, what do we need to do to make sure that innocents are never threatened in the first place? Humans do not see other species as threats unless those species threaten innocent people. The Korthak Empire was destroyed, not because they were humans' enemies, but because they attacked defenseless civilians. In the viewing gallery above the assembly hall, Dr. Nakamura watched the proceedings with interest. She had been assigned as Earth's observer to the Council, but was not allowed to speak during debates about human policy. She was proud of how well Veltar was explaining her people. The results speak for themselves, Veltar continued. The Zephyrian system is now safer and more prosperous than it has ever been. Trade has increased by 300% because merchants know the shipping lanes are protected. Our technology has improved because human engineers shared their knowledge freely. Our medical facilities can now treat injuries and diseases that were previously fatal. He paused and looked around the assembly. And we are not the only ones. In the 6 months since the Korthak defeat, 17 other species have requested human protection agreements. Not because they fear humans, but because they trust them. The Centauri representative was not satisfied. What does Earth want in return for this protection? Nothing that we do not give willingly, Veltar answered. They want trade partners, not subjects. They want allies, not servants. They want friends, not slaves. Every species under human protection maintains complete autonomy over their internal affairs. A new voice spoke from the assembly floor. It was Ambassador Kextar, the former Korthak soldier who had been captured during the battle. He now represented the free worlds that had broken away from the Korthak Empire. "Honored representatives," Kextar said, "I fought against the humans. I was their prisoner. I can tell you that everything Admiral Veltar says is true. The humans treated us better as prisoners than our own empire treated us as soldiers. When the war ended, they helped us build new governments based on freedom and justice instead of conquest and cruelty." The assembly was surprised to hear a former enemy speak in favor of the humans. "My people lived under the Korthak Empire for generations," Kextar continued. "We thought strength meant the ability to cause fear and pain. The humans taught us that real strength means the ability to protect and heal. They showed us that power is best used to help others, not to dominate them." After the formal session ended, representatives gathered in small groups to discuss what they had heard. Many were still uncertain about humanity's intentions, but none could argue with the results. Dr. Nakamura approached Veltar as he was leaving the assembly hall. "Admiral," she said, "thank you for speaking so well about my people. Your words will help other species understand that we are not a threat to peaceful civilizations." "I only spoke the truth," Veltar replied. "But there is something I want to ask you. Why do humans care so much about protecting other species? You could easily conquer the galaxy and rule it as an empire. Why do you choose to be guardians instead?" Dr. Nakamura thought for a moment. "Admiral, on Earth we have a saying, 'With great power comes great responsibility.' Humans learned this lesson through much suffering in our own history. We know what happens when strong people use their power only for themselves. It leads to endless war, endless suffering, endless fear. And when strong people use their power to help others, it leads to peace, prosperity, and friendship," Dr. Nakamura replied. "Which kind of galaxy would you rather live in?" That evening, there was a ceremony at the new temple that had been built in the Zephyrian system. It was designed to honor all the different religious traditions of the species that now lived and worked together under human protection. Admiral Veltar stood before the altar with representatives from 12 different worlds. They had come together to offer a prayer for continued peace and friendship. "6 months ago," Veltar said to the assembled crowd, "we prayed that the humans would not come. We were afraid of the stories we had heard about Deathworlders. Today, we offer a different prayer." He raised his hands toward the stars. "We pray that if darkness ever threatens the galaxy again, the humans will hear our call. We pray that the Guardians will always be strong enough to protect the innocent. We pray that the friendship between our peoples will grow stronger with each passing year." The crowd joined their voices to his. In the back of the temple, several human crew members who had remained in the system bowed their heads respectfully. They understood that they were being honored not as conquerors or masters, but as friends and protectors. Young Keva, now the chief botanist for the entire system, approached Dr. Nakamura after the ceremony. "Dr. Nakamura," she said, "I want to thank you for everything your people have done for us." "We only did what any good neighbors would do," Dr. Nakamura replied. "No," Keva said. "You did much more than that. You showed us that strength and kindness can exist together. You taught us that the most fearsome protectors can also be the gentlest friends. Most importantly, you proved that when good people have power, they use it to help others." Dr. Nakamura smiled. "And what will you do with that knowledge?" "We will follow your example," Keva said. "As our civilization grows stronger, we will remember what you taught us. When we encounter species that need help, we will try to be to them what you were to us." "That," Dr. Nakamura said, "is the greatest compliment you could give us." As the ceremony ended and people began to leave the temple, Admiral Veltar looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the shipping lanes, keeping traders safe from pirates. Human doctors worked in hospitals on dozens of worlds, saving lives with advanced medical technology. Human engineers helped build better cities, better infrastructure, better lives for billions of beings. The prayers had changed. Instead of fearing the Deathworlders, the galaxy now hoped for their continued protection. Instead of praying that humans would not come, peaceful species everywhere prayed that when evil threatened, the Guardians would always answer the call. Admiral Veltar offered one final, personal prayer as he walked home through the safe, peaceful streets of his space station. He whispered to the stars, "Thank you for teaching us that the most frightening warriors can also be the most loyal friends."